To access your FlexBook settings, simply click Settings in the top left-hand corner, and then go over here to FlexBook. The very first option you'll see here, your online scheduling URL, you guys get to choose what you'd like in there. That would be specifically for your practice, and that will be the URL that patients would use to access FlexBook for your practice. So you can put in whatever you'd like here. It is first come, first serve, so if that keyword is already taken, this border would be red when I type something in. It's green, so that's letting me that that's good to go. That's reserved specifically for you. Right beneath that is our button that says Create Website Widget. This would be something that you'd give to your web developer or your marketing company if you wanted to include a widget on your website. Essentially, that would open up in more of an iframe. So it's more like picture-in-picture, so that would just overlay your existing website if you guys wanted to use that. Alternatively, you could always just set up a URL linked to a button, so it's a link and would go directly to that instead. This set accent color, what that ends up doing, when you pull up FlexBook, you'll see button colors and a footer color at the bottom, all of these icons. That determines what color those will be. So if you wanted to coordinate that with your color scheme or set that to the same color as your logo, you absolutely can. If you choose not to use a practice photo on the left-hand side here, we will use your accent color instead, which to set that practice photo, it's right here where we see practice photo. All you have to do is click Upload Image, and then select whichever image you would like to use for your practice. That will automatically get loaded in there for you. You can always come back and remove that or change that at any time that you'd like. This enable online scheduling for the following operatories. That's a global setting, so you can select whichever operatories you wanted to be eligible here. You can have as many as you wanted, and those are pulling directly from Open Dental. Default provider here, if something were to happen where there's not a provider set on an appointment or something like that, that's what we'd end up defaulting it to. That wouldn't be typical, but it is necessary just as a fallback for us. And then allow scheduling for the following days. That also is a global setting, so if you ever wanted to come in here and disable Mondays and Fridays, without getting into kind of appointment and provider level settings, you could disable that across the board for everybody. Which to set up those specific providers or set up those specific appointments, we would simply click the corresponding button. So my recommendation would be to start here with providers. And as we're going through this, you can choose whether or not the provider is enabled, what their name will display as on your online scheduling website, which operatories that provider can be scheduled in. Insurance exclusions for this provider, that's not typically necessary, but if you have an associate that happens to be out of network with an insurance company that you're in network with, you can exclude them from the in-network messaging that you can set. The associated provider in your practice management system, that would essentially be whichever provider you have set up in Open Dental so that we can link those two together. And then the days of the week that they're eligible to be scheduled at. You can always restrict specific times. So we will respect any blockout settings that you have in Open Dental as long as those blockouts are set to be non-schedulable. But if you wanted to go in here and establish more of like a block scheduling type layout here, you can always add in additional blocks so that you aren't having to constantly go through Open Dental and manage any blockouts there. You can have multiples here by just clicking restrict times again. I can set additional times here. And you can have as many of those as you'd like on as many days as you would like. Over here on setup appointment times, this is where I can set up specific appointment types that patients will be eligible to schedule. So the name of the appointment, you can call it whatever you'd like. The description that shows up here, again, you can put in whatever you'd like there. Whether or not this appointment is even enabled, so if you already had an existing appointment type, you didn't want to have to go in here and delete it, you can just toggle this, enable this appointment type off if you ever wanted to disable scheduling for that for whatever reason. Allow provider selection here. What that does is allows the patient, when they're going through FlexBook, to be able to choose the specific provider that they wanted to schedule that with. We do end up randomizing the order that those providers show up in. So if you have 3 hygienists, it's not always going to show the same hygienist up at the top. But if you just wanted to round robin that assignment, You can always disable this entirely so that the patient doesn't have that option of choosing. Completely up to you guys. Whether or not new patients are eligible and existing patients are eligible. If this appointment is hygiene, that just controls how we create that appointment in Open Dental. So we just need to know if that's a hygiene appointment or not. The icon that we display with that appointment, what that controls when we're selecting an appointment type here, that controls which icon we're showing. So you guys get to choose from our list which one you would prefer to have on there. Appointment length, pretty obvious, but that's how long the appointment will be when we schedule that. The assistant time start and end. If you guys make use of assistant time or you're keeping track of provider time, you can always add in some assistant time at the start or at the end of that appointment. We'll add that padding automatically into Open Dental for you. The providers eligible for this appointment, we are pulling that list from our provider setup. These will show up as the providers that you have in Open Dental. And then procedure codes for this appointment. This is where we can set the specific procedure codes that you wanted to allocate to that appointment so that when that appointment is scheduled in Open Dental, we'll add those automatically onto that appointment for you. The operatories eligible for this appointment. So we have, to backtrack here, we have global operatories that can be set. We have provider operatories that can be set. And then we have appointment operatories that can be set. So you guys can choose whichever operatories you wanted this appointment to be eligible for. And then again, what days, and then time restrictions. This works identically to provider restrictions that you may have set up. All of those are taken into account when an appointment is actually scheduled and what times we'll offer to that patient. And if you guys wanted to add in additional appointments, you can simply tap the plus down here. You can create as many as you would like. Set up insurance. This will simply tell us which insurance companies you wanted to display in online scheduling and how we should respond to that when a patient selects that they have that specific insurance company. So the list here, we'll pre-populate some insurance companies in this list, and you can select whichever ones you wanted to present as an option. We'll automatically show other on that list so that if they have an insurance company that doesn't match, you can include that. But you guys can always add more to this list. All you have to do is click the plus and then type in the name of the insurance company that you want to add. Over here on this right-hand list, we're pulling in the options that you have here. All you would need to do is select the insurance companies that you are in network with, and then we will display the in-network message to that patient. If they select something on your list that you are not in network with, this is a message that we would display to them. Or if you have that provider excluded from being in network with that insurance company. If the patient selects that they have no insurance, this is a message that we would show them. And then if the patient selects that they have something else that isn't on your list, you can choose to have whatever message you'd like. For intelligent scheduling, this allows you to control more intricately the specific times that we will present to a given patient. So this enable appointment clustering, what that ultimately does is tries to encourage the patient to schedule appointments that are directly corresponding to another appointment. So if you had an appointment at 11 a.m., it would encourage patients to schedule something at 10 a.m. or immediately after that at 12 p.m., assuming that appointment was 1 hour. Merge operatories. So what that setting allows you to do, and this is a really cool setting. Let's say you have a hygienist that is working out of two different operatories. So you have hygiene 1 and hygiene 2. And you'll schedule, let me go ahead and move these over. You'll schedule appointments in both of those. If we had these operatories just standalone, where they weren't merged, when a patient was going to schedule an appointment, we would see this 10 a.m. block as available. When you end up merging those two operatories together, we can see that hygiene op 2 here already has an appointment scheduled. So we will not present that as available. The next, because we have this time blocked out here, the next available time would be 12 p.m. We can also take that a little bit further, and we can use provider time to determine availability. So with this option enabled, what we end up doing, and some of you may not actually make much use of this in your offices currently, but in Open Dental, you have the option here on the left-hand side of distinguishing between what is assistant time and what is provider time. Anything that's this dark color would be provider time. Anything that's white would be assistant time. So what we can end up doing, let's say these appointments were a little bit shorter. So when we're using provider time instead, so without it, we would see this 10 a.m. appointment block as available. When we're using provider time, we would actually move that up a little bit to then show this, it looks like 9:40 time instead is available to the patient. And we would stagger the appointment times when we're scheduling them and just bounce between those operatories. The last setting to go over here is Enable FlexNudge. So with that enabled, you will see a chart with different times and different days available to you. So what we're doing there, when a patient goes through and is scheduling an appointment, they can select the days and times that they are available. So let's say a particular patient is saying, I'm available on Wednesdays and I'm available on Fridays, both in the morning and the afternoon. But for your practice, this Friday at 4 p.m., that time is really easy for you to fill, or Friday afternoons in general. So we can deprioritize those times. And let's say for Wednesdays at 11 a.m. and 12 p.m., that's a difficult time for you to fill. So when the patient is selecting which days and times are available, we'll end up showing them times that are most preferable to your practice. So even though you may have a Friday afternoon slot filled, because the patient's telling you, I prefer any of those days, it's fine, we'll show them those times that are most preferable for you. We'll go through this twice and give them 6 different options. If none of those work for them, we'll end up taking them to a schedule so that they can ultimately pick whatever date and time works best for them. When a patient does ultimately select a time, they'll go through here and enter their name, email address, birth date, and then this mobile phone number. That's important. So what we end up doing to confirm they are who they say they are, that they're a real person, we do a phone validation. So we can do that with either a text message. If they have a landline, it will generate an automated call to them, but that confirms that they have a real valid phone number so that you're able to contact them if you need to, and we have a lot more certainty that that patient will actually show up. If you ever needed to restrict a patient from being able to schedule online, we do have this blacklist feature by phone number. So all you would have to do is enter the phone numbers here that you wanted to restrict, and that would prevent a patient from being able to schedule anything. So to show you what this looks like from start to finish from the patient's perspective, let's go ahead and schedule an appointment here. So I'm going to select new patient. I'll get my teeth whitened. We'll find a date and time for that. It lets me know that Monday, March 23rd at 8 a.m. is the first available, so we can go ahead and schedule that. Go ahead and put in some information here, and then we'll enter my mobile phone number, and I'll say I don't have insurance. So it will text me a number. I'll go ahead and key that in here, and I'll confirm that. It will let me know that that appointment has been scheduled. This will actually send off an email to you as well so that you can confirm that you have that appointment. And then if we check our schedule here, March 23rd, I will see my 8 a.m. appointment. The note on that appointment will let you know that that was created by FlexBook, the specific type of appointment that they scheduled, whether or not they have insurance. If they selected they have insurance, we will show the insurance company they selected as well as their subscriber ID. And then any procedures that we needed to add to that appointment will automatically be added. And if you needed to go in here and see a list of any sort of appointments that were created with FlexBook, we have some reporting based off of that. So from the main page of Flex, if If I click the huddle/reports icon, I can select FlexBook, choose my date range here, so I'll just pull in the last 30 days, and I can see that appointment that we just scheduled.